So much, Adi, and the bhajan band. I literally now wake up. When I wake up, I hear you guys singing Jaya Radha Madhava in the morning. That is the first thing when I open up my eyes. That is the first thing I hear in my head. So thank you so much. As always, thank you, Ananda Vihari, for giving me this honor to present here. Thank you all, this wonderful family that I tune into. Thank you all for holding me in your embrace. As Adi has taught us to pray, please pray for me this morning, that what I have to say is in line with our teachings and Guru, and that there is no selfish motivation, and that I'm not making it up out of my bubble head. I beg for your forgiveness, your tolerance. Please pray for me. And as I see that you are all senior to me in your devotion and your knowledge, I beg all of you, we have our senior devotees, but I beg all of you for your indulgence this morning. And even though there is no better version of Jaya Radha Madhava than Adi's and the Kirtan band, there just isn't. I just, for my own self, I need to sing. And I've been loving recently reading the English translation first. So, hail the Lord, beloved Madhava Radha, who wandered in the groves of Vrindavan, sweetheart of cowherds. He who lifted Govardhan hill. Hail, son of Mother Yashoda, the delighter of the people of Raj, wanderer of the banks of the river Jamuna and the forests. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavara Kirivara Dari. Gopi Janavara Kirivara Dari. Gopi Janavara Kirivara Dari. Yashoda Nandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Prajajana Nandana. Yashoda Nandana Prajajana Nandana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll go ahead and share my screen. We are reading from the great book. Oopsie, I had it set up and then in my enthusiasm, I got it. Hold on one second. Reading from the great work, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 4, Verse 4. Tamaha Brahm Tamram Devi Kripana Karuna Sati Shnushayam Tabakalyana Striyam Mahantu Marhasi. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Devaki helplessly, hideously appealed to Kamsa, my dear brother, all good fortune unto you. Don't kill this girl. She will be your daughter-in-law. Indeed, it is unworthy of you to kill a woman. Purport. Kamsa had previously excused Devaki because he thought that a woman should not be killed, especially when pregnant. But now, by the influence of Maya, he was prepared to kill a woman, not only a woman, but a small, helpless, newborn child. Devaki wanted to save her brother from this terrible, sinful act. Therefore, she told him, don't be so atrocious as to kill a female child. Let there be all good fortune for you. Demons can do anything for their personal benefit, not considering what is pious or vicious. But Devaki, on the contrary, although safe, because she had already given birth to her own son, Krishna, was anxious to save the daughter of someone else. This was natural for her. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas, Hare Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'm going to read the verse and the purport one more time and then stop sharing. Devaki helplessly, hideously appealed to Kamsa, my dear brother. All good fortune unto you. Don't kill this girl. She will be your daughter-in-law. Indeed, it is unworthy of you to kill a woman. The purport. Kamsa had previously excused Devaki because he thought that a woman should not be killed, especially when pregnant. But now, by the influence of Maya, he's prepared to kill a woman. Not only a woman, but a small, helpless, newborn child. Devaki wanted to save her brother from this terrible, sinful act. Therefore, she told him, don't be so atrocious as to kill a female child. Let there be good fortune for you. Demons can do anything for their personal benefit, not considering what is pious or vicious. But Devaki, on the contrary, although safe, because she had already given birth to her own son, Krishna, was anxious to save the daughter of someone else. This was natural for her. One of the things, and don't you find it, about the Bhagavatam, even such a short verse and a relatively short purport gives you so much to think about. In my preparation for this class, I listened to, I think, 3 or 4 classes. In each one, there was something, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. And so I hope to share with you my takeaway from this. And I'm going to begin by absolutely, I guess it's a story, it's an axiom, I don't know, it's a thing that I know every last person on this call has heard at some point. And it's the Native American little story about either the 2 dogs or the 2 wolves. We know this well, yeah? That inside of every person, there are these 2 dogs or 2 wolves. One is good, one is bad. And they are constantly fighting. And which one wins? And we know the answer. The one we feed. Right? I feel like this verse is the epitome of that. We see in this verse a good dog and a bad dog. And I know those good and bad dogs inside of myself. And I think from now on, quite frankly, I'm going to think of this verse and call the bad dog Kamsa and the good dog Devaki. This verse, I think, also epitomizes for me, something that a friend of mine once told me. I don't remember who he says he's quoting, but some great soul said that human beings are capable of anything and its opposite. And in this verse, we see the anything and we see quite the opposite. The word contrary is used in this. Then the other thing that I really feel like this verse epitomizes is, and I do love the drama. I love Srila Prabhupada's language sometimes with the fools and the rascals and all those things. But I love that chapter 16 has that, of the Bhagavad Gita has that, the divine and demoniac nature. Not just good and bad, but demoniac. And once again, I feel like this verse, here it is, right for us to see. The other thing that I was thinking that this verse very much epitomizes is who we want to be and who we don't want to be. Who we want to be and sometimes who we are, because Maya has indeed gotten the best of us. And so while I know, again, for a big title, that this chapter is called The Atrocities of Kamsa, I would like to deploy a teaching technique that one often uses with children. Yeah, and I'm looking at Andrea, and Andrea, as I work a lot with children, and I know she knows this technique. And sometimes when there's a kid that's acting up in class or whatever, and is doing the do and is being all disruptive or whatever, and so the teacher has to, sort of like take care of that. But after a while, sometimes you realize that the person that's acting out is doing it for attention. And there's another technique. Instead of saying, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, you divert and you pay attention to the person who is acting correctly, right, Andrea? You say something like this: oh, look how nicely so-and-so is sitting up tall and raising their hand. Right, Andrea? And after a while, the kid that's been throwing the spitballs goes, oh, I'm no longer getting attention. Let me be the kid that sits up nicely and raise my hand. And so you know what, Kamsa? You can throw your spitballs. Because in this verse, I'm not going to look at you. I know this is your chapter and about your atrocities, but I'm going to focus today on the other person, the person that is the good dog, the person that is the divine. Because quite frankly, last time I gave class, I talked all about you, Kamsa. My whole class last time was about the missed opportunities, about what Kamsa could have been. That was, and it's Krishna arranged. That was the last time I gave class. About at that point, he was in his higher nature. He knew not to kill, and he was backing off from that, right? And so today, what I'd like to focus on the good news, because isn't it sometimes we can, and it's not to say that we shouldn't hear about these atrocities, right? We need to hear about the bad. But sometimes, my Guru Dev always says, you have to keep hearing good ideas. There's so many examples of the good dog in our teachings. And not to call Devaki a dog, of course, but the wolf or whatever. But I'd like to focus on our time, and maybe it's because I'm a perpetual optimist and a bit of a cheerleader, right? I would like to focus my thoughts and send us to focusing on the higher nature of the two people that are engaged in this very short verse. And so let's look at Devaki. I'm going to read a little bit again, and I'm not going to bring it up because I have it printed out here. Devaki, what does she do? She helplessly, hideously. Does that paint a picture for you? It does for me. I see her down on her knees. My goodness, she's in a prison, for God's sakes. And I looked up the words because sometimes it's good to, we have these images of what the words mean. It's good sometimes to look at the words. And so, what's it called? Helplessly, unable to help oneself, weak or dependent, deprived of strength or power, powerless, incapacitated, affording no help. And then piteously, deserving or arousing pity. Some synonyms: pathetic, distressing, heartrending, heartbreaking, moving, affecting, touching, poignant, forlorn, poor, wretched, abject, miserable, tragic, lamentable, grievous, distressful. And what does she do? What does she do with all of that? She praises him. She praises him and she thinks of him. What does she say? She says, my dear brother, all good fortune unto you. Don't kill this girl. She says, it is unworthy of you. And then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, don't be so atrocious as to kill a female child. Let there be good fortune unto you. Could there be, and there are, but what example of what is actually compassion? We talk about compassion all the time, and it's nice to read it, and we all want to be it. But here we see she is so down. She's so down, and what he has done in front of her eyes, and yet she is able to see, again, to quote His Holiness Danyadhar Swami Maharaj often tells us to see a person's inspired side. She is able to see his inspired side. She is able to see in that moment with BKS Iyengar. You never thinks of Iyengar as the asana guy, and he is, but his asana is all about getting so he can glorify God. If you read his books, he says to see the spark of divinity. When we say namaste, I'm a yoga teacher, so we say it on the regular. The light in me bows down to the light in me. She is embodying that namaste. She is embodying that phrase we hear, para dukkha dukhi. The suffering of another is my suffering. She's not just walking the walk. Here she is down, piteously, helplessly. And yet she is thinking of another's good before even her own. Like it says, her child's in the clear. But let me help someone else. And that is compassion. And I often think, how does one do that? How does one see that spark of divinity, even with someone, and the word is heavy, someone as atrocious as Kamsa? And I immediately thought up, and I'll bring the verse up in the Bhagavad Gita 5:18, that talks about that beautiful principle of Samadarshanan. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, an outcast. Purport. A Krishna's conscious person does not make any distinction between species or castes or demons. The Brahmanas and the outcasts may be different from the social point of view, or a dog, a cow, an elephant may be different from the point of view of species, but these differences of body are meaningless from the viewpoint of learned transcendentalists. This is due to the relationship to the Supreme. For the Supreme Lord, by his plenary portion as Para Atman, is present in everyone's heart. Such an understanding of the Supreme is real knowledge. As far as the bodies are concerned, in different castes or different species of life, the Lord is equally kind to everyone because he treats every living being as a friend, yet maintains himself as Para Atman, regardless of the circumstances of living entities. The Lord as Para Atman is present both in the outcast and in the Brahmana. Although the body of a Brahmana and that of an outcast are not the same. The bodies are material productions of different modes of material nature, but the soul and the super soul within the body are of the same spiritual quality. The similarity in the quality of the soul and the super soul, however, does not make them equal in quantity. For the individual soul is present only in that particular body, whereas the Para Atman is present in each and every body. The Krishna conscious person has full knowledge of this, and therefore he is truly learned and has equal vision, Samadarshanan. The similar characteristics of the soul and super soul are that they are both conscious, eternal, and blissful. But the difference is that the individual soul is conscious within the limited jurisdiction of the body, whereas the super soul is conscious of all bodies. The super soul is present in all bodies without distinction. You know, I know American Sign Language, so sometimes intuitively I do signs with my hands, and the sign for same is this, and I found myself doing like that. There's a joining, right? That is what Devaki is able to see. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, she's able to see that. She's able to see his inspired side and to see within this, not even a dog eater, this demonic killer of children, she's able to see. And forgive me for referencing current events, but I could not help but think this week, if someone had seen the inspired side of that young man who did such atrocious things this week, what a difference that would have made. If someone had seen, because that's what we do when we see the inspired inside another person, we fan the flames of it. I'm looking at all the people on this call and all the great souls that I know at the Bhakti Center. They do that for me. I always pray that I wish one day that I will be 1,000th the person that people at the Bhakti Center think that I am, because I'm not. But through their association and through them seeing the inspired side in me, I feel like I have to step up and try to be that person. And that is true compassion. I was thinking this morning when I was thinking about it, that is what, like Lord Jesus says, you give somebody a fish and you fed them for a day. You teach them how to fish. You fed them for a lifetime. Of course, in our case, it would be you give somebody a carrot. You teach them how to grow carrots because we don't want to eat fish. But if we stoke someone's inspired side, if we see the best in them, we can draw it out of them. And we talk a lot about compassion in action, right? Compassion in action. That's compassion in action. To draw out that goodness. Because here's the thing, and I'm going to end with that, because that's the good news. That inspired side is in it. This purport just tells us that. That spark of divinity is no less in Kamsa, is in Devaki, is no less in all of this, all of us. So what a beautiful example of compassion and how, and I like, it's like, this is how she's doing it. She's seeing his inspired side, to quote my Guru Dave, she's seeing his inspired side and helping it grow. And that's what we can do. We want to be compassionate. How can we do it? See that inspired side, stoke the flames and let it go. And I was thinking that it's very much like a story that I love about when Master Drona sent both Duryodhana and Yudhishthira on that little, I feel like it's a school class trip. You send kids out, okay, go outside and write down how many butterflies you see and what color and stuff like that, right? And Drona goes to see who would make the good king. Drona Acharya goes to Yudhishthira, go see if you can find someone that is higher than you. And he says to Duryodhana, go see if there is someone that is lower than you. And we know the story well. That Drona comes back and goes, dude, Master Drona, I see why you sent me on this mission, because clearly I need to be king, because I could find like nobody that was lower than me. I am so elevated and I'm above everybody. Thank you for showing me that. But what does Yudhishthira say? Yudhishthira comes back, humble pie as can be. Oh, Master Drona, I see why you sent me on this mission. I see how fallen I am. I see that everyone is above me. I understand now why you sent me. I am so flawed, right? It's that this great writer, Simon Haas, that I'm sure some of you have read his books. They're wonderful. The Dharma Code and Yoga and the Dark Night of Soul, such great books. He writes beautifully, and he says that we have to remember, we don't see the world the way it is. We see the world the way we are. By looking for that spark of divinity, by trying to see the good in one first, we can help stoke that flame. but by remembering, again, the little sign language thing, right? That same spark of divinity. I'm going to do it to every last little Zoom I see on the thing, right? It's all within us. And so what a great example of compassion. But here's the thing. And this is a game I started playing with myself this week, and I encourage you to do it. Once I began to think, there are so many great examples, and in a moment, I'm going to open up to see if there's any, anybody I want to say or put in the chat box. There are so many wonderful examples for us, like exemplars of compassion in our teachings. Of course, I'm going to start with the person, the sweet person from whom all compassion comes, and that is, of course, Krishna. One of the things I love about Achyuta Gopi's classes, and we all love them so much, but can you also feel how much when she says the name Govinda, it is her friend? Can you, yeah, yeah. It is like when she says, my dearest friend, it is. One of my memories of early on in my Krishna conscious exploration, I was at a kirtan with Ananta, and Danyadara Maharaj was there, and Ananta was playing the drum, and Ananta said, look at him, he has no doubt. And I remember Achyuta was singing, I think Ananta was going like, goes, no doubt, right? And what was Achyuta saying just the other day? Oh my goodness, it's so late already. But what was she saying the other day, right? She was saying she knows about mercy because she says, I'm here. She was born so prematurely. She says, I know because I am here. And when we look at our lives, what to speak of the stories in the Bhagavatam, how even when demons are killed, they receive Krishna's compassion and they are liberated, right? Sudama comes offering the tiniest bit. And just like Krishna promises will do in the Bhagavad Gita, you offer offer me anything, he accepts it. One of my favorite pictures there in the Bhakti Center in the temple room is the picture of Krishna with the fruit seller. Yes, holding the fruit. And she's giving him fruit. Look at all the gems that are spilling out of her basket. Indeed, how wonderful is Krishna? And when you play this game of seeing his compassion in our lives, like Achyuta Gopi alluded to, you see it everywhere. When I was little, and there are only, I'm going to say like maybe 4 people in this call that might remember this. I don't even remember what show it is, and somebody could tell me, right? But there was something called the fickle finger of fate. I don't remember what show it is. And they would talk about do. But when I look back at my life, I see Krishna's mercy, his compassion, guiding me. And when you play that game with yourself to see where Krishna's compassion has showed up in your life, it opens up your eyes. Your best friend has been there all along, showering you with compassion. And so it made me think of, and my mother has a copy of this in her home, and surely some of you have heard it before. It's a poem called Footprints. And I'd like to read it to you because I really think it epitomizes it. One night I dreamed a dream. As I was walking along the beach with my Lord, across the dark sky flashed scenes from my life. For each scene, I noticed 2 sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to me and one to my Lord. After the last scene of my life flashed before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand. I noticed that at many times along the path of my life, especially at the very lowest and saddest times, there was only one set of footprints. This really troubled me. So I asked the Lord about it. Lord, you said once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I noticed that during the saddest and most troublesome times of my life, there was only one set of footprints. I don't understand why, when I needed you the most, you would leave me. The Lord whispered, my precious child, I love you and will never leave you. Never, ever. During your trials and testings, when you saw only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. Isn't it true? When we look back when we look back at our lives, we can see the compassion of Krishna, that fickle finger of fate, guiding us here, there, and along the way. And just like a Chuta Gopi always says, she knows there's mercy because she is living it. And when we look, we are too. Just yesterday, I was in the temple. I like to go there on Friday afternoons. It's quiet. And I know that Jai Jagannath is mostly doing the arti there. So that's like, I'm all by myself. I have the deities all to myself. What mercy. And there's Jai Jagannath. He's so scholarly. He's also a dancer. The way he does arti is beautiful. And then the door opens and who walks in? Jahnavi. She sits down and starts to sing. Is Jai Jagannath doing arti? One other devotee, me. What? What compassion that I should be there when this is happening. The finger, Krishna carrying me. So I'd hope to have some time, but what I wanted to wrap up with, because I want to hear from you, because you are all so much more elevated. I played this game with myself this week. How many examples of compassion did I find in the devotee of the Lord? And there were so many. I'm just going to rattle off a list real quick. Draupadi, when Ashvatthama is brought before her, he has slaughtered 5, slaughtered her children. And what does she say? Don't kill him. Even Krishna wants to kill him. She says, don't kill him, because I do not want another mother to feel my pain. King Sibi, who's literally cutting off flesh, right, to offer to a bird, because the bird is underneath his protection. I love the story of the Ramayana, and sometimes I feel this is the personality that I most identify with. That old woman who, when Lord Ram comes and she wants to offer berries, and she bites each berry to see if it's sweet enough and gives it to him. So not what you're supposed to do. But Lord Ram accepts it and gives mercy. I feel like that's me. My temple etiquette is just so way off. And yet my mercy, Krishna hasn't literally like picked me up and carried me out of Radha Mulitar and Gaurachandra's house, right? King Prithu, after Indra steals the horse and all that stuff, not only does Queen Prithu like let it go, he embraces him. Vasudev Dutt, who is willing to take the sins of everyone else. And of course, Lord Chaitanya, giving the holy name to anyone. Jadai Madai, we know the stories. What to speak of Jadai Madai? Lord Nityananda. Yeah, sure. Go ahead and throw a clay pot at my head. I'm not going to take your offense. You are mine, right? Prahlad Maharaj. There's not time now, but after all his father has done to him, and what does he say? May the entire universe be blessed with peace and good hope. And he gives us the 9 potent devotional practices. And of course, Srila Prabhupada. He didn't have to come, guys. He didn't have to get on that boat. He didn't. And yet he did. And we are lucky, we're so, again, compassionate that we have people who sat at his feet amongst us. That is compassion. That's that fickle finger of fate guiding us. And then sorry, I'm 5 minutes late, but I just have one more thing, because it's the last words of the purport that really struck me, actually. It says, this kind of compassion, Prabhupada writes, this was natural for her. And you can read it, yeah, this was natural for her, because come on, she's Mother of God. It doesn't give you a way to look at that phrase, Mother of God. It makes you different, Mother of God, right? This was natural for her, but here's the thing, it is natural for us too. The rest of who we are is the unnatural part. All those examples of compassion and all the many others that you can find in your mind, great learned Vaishnavas that I'm looking at, that is who you are. That is who we are. It is natural for us. Everything else is a perversion of who we are. And so we have these practices by Prahlad to bring us back to who we are. We have, through the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, the holy name. We have, through the mercy and compassion of Prabhupada and his disciples, of guru, of Shastra. And then we have our very dearest friend the whole time, the fickle finger of fate, guiding us here and there, back to who we are. So yeah, I didn't want to spend my time talking about the atrocities of Kamsa. Yeah, I'm not going to feed that bad dog today with giving him more attention. I wanted to give the attention to the compassionate and to remind us, okay, yeah, I got a big old bad dog. His name is Kamsa. It's a pit bull. Yeah, inside of me. And there's a little dog that's trying to get bigger. I want to feed that little dog today. And so let us remember that. It's natural for her. And it's also really natural for us. So I thank you for your tolerance and for your time and your understanding. And so I open up the floor for any questions or comments, or I would love also to hear about your favorite examples of compassion and stories or in your own life. Oh, Angelica's got a hand raised. Let me just go to the chat first, sweetie, just to make sure there's nothing. Yeah, let's play Krishna's compassionate board game. I love it. Oh, Andrea, let's make that for the kids. Let's make that. Devotee said, shine on me, the higher deal myself. Yes, yes, beautiful. Yes, Angelica, my love, my angel, please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Jamuna, Jaya. It's such an honor to hear you. Your last point just, I feel like, is really what hit me home, but I wanted to share something else, but still I want to reflect how beautiful it is to remember that that's true. We see those qualities and they are our qualities, which we are yet to discover more and more and uncover them through our beautiful practices. So that is just such a inspiration to go deeper into sadhana and to really commit to it. But I wanted to share that that is actually, this class is an example of compassion of Krishna really being given to me, because the poem that you shared, a few years ago, I lost a student who was my also dear friend. She had cancer and she passed away when she was like 16. And I remember I was just like, I went to her funeral. And in her funeral, that was the poem that she would read. Like, she would read Bible every night, and she would read that poem every single day. And there was that the last portion of the poem, the question of why there was only one pair of footsteps in the, I don't know, catalog of the funeral, however it's called, pamphlet. But in the congregation, in the church, and her parents, they had so much compassion and so much faith that I was the one like crying my eyes out that day and not being able to compose myself, and they were consoling me. like her family and her parents were consoling me. You know, I only knew her for however long I was teaching her. And so yeah, it just made me cry right now, because it is like one of those really beautiful examples of compassion, and also what it means to have faith in the Lord and always remember him, that there is no situation in our life that we cannot see as an expression of his mercy, and that we cannot really go through knowing that he actually always wants the best for us. So that's just what I wanted to share. Thank you so much for reminding me of this.
Thank you, Angelica. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I can dare say that that beautiful soul that you taught, you probably see how she became so beautiful. I was thinking, with parents like that, such good guides. But isn't it so, you see these people, you know, that they're angels that show up. Like recently, there's someone I know that suffers from on and off dementia, and they were on a bus that there was somebody with them, and going from New York to DC, and they got lost and confused and they lost their cell phone. Things could have gone so wrong, but there were angels all along the way. There was Krishna's little fickle finger of fate guiding her along the way. Someone gave her a cell phone. The bus driver, check this out, the bus driver, after having driven from New York to Washington, D.C., through traffic, then when they got to the depot and found she was lost, personally took her back to her home. Right, personally took her back to the home. And there are these wonderful, wonderful examples all along the way. I was thinking, and oh, it's over there. But if you have an opportunity ever to look back and read The Journey Within by His Holiness Radhanath Swami, if I had time, I would have read the whole pastime. But there's the story of the woman Ladini, who she was a missionary preaching with Radha Maharaj, and then she goes to Africa, and there's this great big, hold on, book's right there. That's the nice thing about being at home, you have to forgetting your book. And so I just have it. So these like warriors come, and they're going to kill everybody, but they line up the men, and they're going to save her because she's a woman. And instead she goes, no, she can't. Let me see. Here it is. I want Maharaj's words. But then they released Talini and another woman, saying he would kill only the men. The women were free to go. She was surrounded by aides holding machine guns. As he raised his pistol to murder the 5 men one by one, Ladini knew she could not bear to see her students massacred. She ran over and grabbed the arm that held his gun, saying, "Do not kill these innocent devotees." Doesn't that just sound like just exactly what Devaki said, right? She knew she didn't have a chance, but she chose to die rather than do nothing while others were harmed. Bullets filled the body of that gentle, loving woman while she struggled with him to make her stop. She lay on the ground with the names of the beloved Lord on her lips, departed for her eternal home. And then what really struck me, and this was Krishna's goodness, when I was thinking about these examples of compassion, I remember this story. And as I read it, I found a word that completely lines up with what Srila Prabhupada says in this purport. So I'm going to skip a little bit. Ladini was naturally blissful. She loved her life in this world and the world she was already beginning to live in beyond this one. What she did at those last moments of her life were natural for her. And I think if she were faced with the same choice today, she would do it again, because she truly did love God with all her heart, soul, strength, and mind, and her neighbors as herself. And when I hadn't, this is Krishna's guidance, I just remember the story, but the word, it was natural for her. Just like Srila Prabhupada says, this action of Devaki, it was natural. They're only separated by time, these two great souls, but doing exactly the same thing, this compassion. So there's a minute left. If there's any corrections or comments, I'd love to hear from you. And again, thank you.
Hi, Krishna, Jamuna.
Hey, Gail.
My God, there's only a minute left, and there's so much to say. Oh my God! But you just mentioned again this word "natural," and I automatically remembered a quote that I heard from somebody else, quoting Bhakti Tirtha Swami, saying that these qualities of compassion and all those other wonderful qualities of devotees, they exist in them. When we see them, it's because that's all they're composed of. Just like you can only get grape juice from grapes, you can only get apple juice from apples. There's nothing else there. That's why that's why we can't see any other kind of quality, because it just actually doesn't exist for them. It would not be possible, just like you can't get apple juice from grapes,
right.
Or vice versa, right?
Right.
So that's Bhakti Tirtha Swami, as I heard. I heard Nitai Sevani Mataji quote Bhakti Tirtha Swami in this way. So yeah, it's just natural. And as for examples of mercy, that my in my own life, even just the fact that I'm listening to you now, the fact that I have any interest in listening to any lectures, considering how I lead my life when I'm not listening to the lecture, that in itself is mercy. And I have such an extensive list that I have to, for one thing, I write them down because I don't want to ever forget them because they're so jaw-dropping, right? But they're also so extensive that I have to even categorize them. For example, one category is I have a prasadam mercy category.
I love it.
I have a Krishna allows me to make it on time to a lecture when there is no materially possible way that I could make it on time to a lecture, when he knows how much, because he knows how much I need to make it on time to the beginning of a lecture. That's a whole nother category. I have to categorize that one because there's an endless list of that. So I'm just saying that, even in my own life, I have my daughter, she was on her way to Sadhu Sangha yesterday, and that's a whole nother story. How the airline, they completely changed the itinerary on her when she was already at the airport 10 minutes before she's supposed to, and as a result, she ends up being able to drive with a friend from Las Vegas to Utah. It's just endless. Even this, look at my icon there, right? That's Lord Gauranga from Echo Village. You look at that face. Is that not the picture of deep affection, and compassion? I could talk forever. But I just had to, mention these few things.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Gail. Yeah, it's in it. I love that you categorize. I'm gonna have to start to do that. But it's
because there's too much.
There really is. There really is.
It's too many things. So he actually immerses us in mercy.
What a great way that you can see that, and what a great way to, again, it's the way Yudhishthira sees the good, to see the mercy instead of, it's, we can look around seeing the but to look around and see the mercy in this. I'm so glad your daughter got to Sangha, but I feel that way like this year, since the pandemic. I've always ridden my bike, but now I ride my bike a lot, and there've been 2 times where cars have sideswiped me, and I'm always like, the mercy that I'm still here. that always wear my helmet and all that stuff, but little things like that. I see what you
Jamuna,
mean.
please take the train. Please take the train. We want you to give more classes. Take the train.
I got my helmet.
No.
But it's so true, and it's such a wonderful thing to look in one's life and see that mercy, and just it just grows your heart. And like Gail knows, Danya Dharmaraj always says is the gratitude and seeing in this way is the fertile soil for your spiritual life. And it begins with that, and saying, oh, there's mercy over there, oh, that's compassion over there. It's the great place to start from, instead of, oh, life sucks. So thank you, Gail. I can see you having your cards in little plastic baggies. FYI, Gail, I ran into Satyaraj last Saturday. I was up in Nyack, and I happened walking down the street, and a car pulls up and goes, Haribol. And I'm like, oh, Satyaraj.
Wow.
And again, mercy. I was just strolling around, and there's Satyaraj just driving in his car.
Well, if I had known you were going to run into him, I would have slipped you one of my questions.
Of course. Let's see. Andrea says, Rukmini Prabhu says, Bhakti is a devotional practice of gratitude. Let's wake up every day thinking Krishna. Do so throughout the day and before we go to bed. That's beautiful. And Krishna Daya Das, thank you, Krishna Daya Das, your beautiful face. We see the world the way we are, not the way it is. Yeah, that's Simon Haas. It's beautiful, right? If we manifest our positive qualities, whole world looks beautiful for us. Well, I've gone over time. I don't know where Anandabhar usually comes on and stops people, which is a mistake because there's so much more that could be said and so much I would want to hear from. So thank you, Krishna Dayadas. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Yogeshwara. Thank you, Ramshwar. Thank you, Bhima. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Angelica. Thank you, Amish. Thank you, Dion. Thank you, Shashkam Baru. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Gail. Oh, there's Anand Bihari. Shut me up.
I'm here. Thank you, Jamuna Jaya. Beautiful class. Beautiful. Unbelievably beautiful. It was so nice that you walked us through the scripture, giving us examples of the devotees who manifested this compassion and saw the inspired side of the other. It's just so nice. I'm going to see the inspired side of everybody I meet today. That's my commitment for today. So thank you, Jamuna Jaya. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you know what? Someone took the time to see the inspired side of me when I was, making my baby steps in Krishna consciousness. People, devotees tolerated me, so I have to return the favor and become compassionate, tolerant, and seeing the inspired side of everybody, which is very easy. I see the inspired side of Krishna Daya Das just by looking at him.
Yes.
There's no effort needed for that.
Yes.
So thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jamuna Jaya Ki Jai. Dandara Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Rama. Love you all. Hare Bol. Have a wonderful day.